Are we in open session?
I take a second or two, Chair.
Okay, that's us in open session, folks. Next item of business is the draft minutes. I refer members to draft minutes of the meeting held on the 10th of June 2025, which are at page 441 of the meeting pack. I'm going to ask Shane to explain a necessary minor amendment to the draft minutes at the bottom of page 444 of the pack.
Yeah, Chair, it's just it was the draft minutes had down as noted that the committee noted the correspondence from the Standards and Privileges Committee dated 4th of June regarding the adjudication of complaints against ministers of alleged breaches of the Ministerial Code of Conduct, but just I realised that the committee actually did note it, but it also agreed that that was an area of work that should reside with the Standards and Privileges Committee rather than this committee. So it's just to add that additional detail into the minutes for the record, Chair.
Okay, are members content with the draft minutes? Great. Next item of business, item 5, matters arising. There are no matters arising. Move on to item 6, review of Assembly Committee engagement on cross-cutting executive strategies, an update on call for evidence. I refer members to the following documents in the meeting pack: the Secretariat briefing paper at page 448, the TEO letter listing the cross-cutting executive strategies, Annex A at page 453, the draft evidence gathered from the Assembly Commission clerking staff on the effectiveness of existing mechanisms and opportunities for reform of existing procedures and practices, that's Annex B at page 492, the response from the Speaker on the review, Annex C at page 501, and the terms of reference for the review, Annex D at page 503. I'd invite the Senior Assistant Clerk, Ashley, to introduce this item.
Thank you. Members, the committee agreed to undertake this review at its meeting on the 8th of April of this year, and you may recall that the review topic was originally proposed by the Executive Office, who were content with the terms of reference. The committee shared the terms of reference for the review with TEO. The purpose of the paper today is to provide you with an update on the call for evidence for the review, as well as that to provide you with a copy of the Executive Office's response to your request for a full list of executive and other cross-cutting strategies, and to provide you with an overview of the session that was held with committee clerking staff in June. So in terms of the call for evidence, that was launched in Citizen Space on the 31st of May. And signposting ads are placed in the usual newspapers, and the review was also promoted, the call for evidence was also supported and promoted through social media posts. There were letters issued to key stakeholders that were agreed by the committee, and they were provided with supporting information and signposting to the Citizen Space site. Over the course of the summer, 3 responses have been received to date. That's not unexpected, given a significant number of the responses to this particular topic are likely to be from parliamentary bodies. So staff are perhaps drafting responses over the summer for agreement and clearance this month. So I'm not too concerned about the level of response at this stage, but just to ensure we do optimise the number of responses, we did we issued reminder emails at the end of August, and the social media posts are being repeated over the month of September just to remind stakeholders of the call for evidence, which closes at the end of September. The Speaker's provided a response that's at page 501, stating that while he is not involved in the day-to-day business of committees, he welcomes the review in the context of the points he has been making more generally about the importance of the Assembly focusing on its scrutiny and accountability roles. In his response, the Speaker also highlights that there may be a need to coordinate with the Committee on Procedures should it decide, based on his suggestion last year, to review the Assembly's legislative processes this mandate. And then the other 2 responses received to date relate to citizens' experience of special educational needs in Northern Ireland. So expecting perhaps more from a particular group along those lines. So the list of cross-cutting executive strategies, that's at page 453. As a reminder why the committee requested that, it was agreed that it would be useful for the review and in particular for the eventual report to the Assembly to have a comprehensive list of the cross-cutting strategies. Given that such strategies have the potential to make a real difference to society, the committee noted that it would be important for the Assembly to have full appreciation of the scale and scope of the work being delivered. So TEO have helpfully coordinated that list for you, and you'll see that it essentially summarises name of strategy or policy or legislation, the lead department, what other departments contribute to the strategy, and then there's also brief information in there on the arm's length bodies, statutory agencies and sectors contributing to its delivery as well. So it's a real snapshot.
Can I ask a question? I can wait until the end. Is it better to wait until the end, Chair, to ask a question?
What do you prefer, Aisling?
Do you?
Go ahead if you.
It is genuinely a factual question. That's a really useful. That's a good progress in itself to have that list. Just one question is on: these strategies, are they all live? As in, they have been published and they are being there are civil servants who are accountable for them in some form, or are they things that have existed at some point in the past and there's no? Is that just what the TO provides?
I believe they're live.
Okay.
I will double check that.
Sure.
But that's a point of clarification. That's what the session's about, to see if there's anything we need to check. So yeah, and there's 100 listed on there. And even at that, TEO have said that this doesn't represent a definitive view. So the disclaimer that it may be larger. So yes, so the committee today might wish to provide initial comments or see if there are any queries, and may wish to share the list with all statutory committees for information or update or comment. For comment. And then there is, I don't propose to go through the detail of it now, but in your packs at about page, I think it's 492. Yes, 492. There's a summary of a session that was held with clerking staff back in June. The reason that this session was set up, you may recall that you've requested that Assembly committees provide their views on effective committee scrutiny of cross-cutting executive strategies. And it was felt that there's a wealth of experience within committee clerking that it would be useful to capture and help to inform the evidence base. And as well as that, the session was helpful in helping committee clerks support their committees in providing responses. So the themes and issues emerging from that session are on page 492, and there's a brief summary in the paper, but essentially participants felt the benefits of effective scrutiny by the Assembly as a potential to support citizens in a more effective, streamlined, cohesive, holistic, economic, responsive and accountable way. And if the Assembly gets the scrutiny right, it could lead to a more effective executive. And then the paper summarises the identified benefits under 3 main headings. So how it supports stakeholders, how it creates a more cohesive and holistic policy, and how it promotes efficiency. Now at the session, participants discussed their experience of using existing mechanisms available under standing orders for dealing with matters of joint concern, and the various strengths and weaknesses of those mechanisms, as well as opportunities for reform, were discussed, and the detail of this is included in the paper at Annex B. So in terms of the terms of reference, there were a couple of points that weren't covered in that session, but we'd hope that will come through in the stakeholder responses to the call for evidence. So what wasn't discussed at the session was the practical option of one committee gathering the views of other committees, or the practical option of one committee to invite non-nominated members to take part in its deliberations, or the practical option of one committee to invite officials or witnesses from different executive departments. So that wasn't covered in that session. It was kept focused to the existing mechanisms under standing orders. In terms of next steps then, Chair, that's my summary.
Okay, thank you for that, Ashley. Has anyone any questions for Ashley on that? No? Well, can we seek agreement then to write the Committee on Procedures to establish a fitting test to conduct a review of the Assembly's legislative processes this mandate, as per the recommendation of the Speaker last year? Agreed?
Yeah.
Has anyone any comments on the list of cross-cutting executive strategies provided by TEO, and is there any further information or clarification required at this point? No? Okay. I'd seek agreement to share the list of cross-cutting strategies with all statutory committees for information and comment. Is that agreed? Mm-hmm. Agreed. Are members content to note the paper from the June 2025 session with committee clerking staff? Agreed? Agreed. And I would advise members that a summary of all the responses to the committee's call for evidence will be provided at a future meeting. Next item of business, item number 7, review of the development of a formal process and guidance on the handling of Westminster Statutory Instruments, which include a role for the Assembly. An update on the call for evidence. I refer members to the following. The Secretariat briefing paper at page 506, the terms of reference for the review, Annex A at page 508, and the written submissions received at page 510. And I invite Ashley again to introduce this item.
So this is just a brief update, Chair. Again, this review was agreed in April, and again it was proposed by the Executive Office originally. And again, the purpose of the update is to let you know how the call for evidence is progressing. So that was lodged on Citizen Space on the 31st of May, and usual signposting, ads and social media posts to promote were undertaken to promote awareness of the review, and again letters were issued to stakeholders as agreed by the committee. 2 responses have been received to date. Again, this isn't unexpected. A significant number of the responses are likely to come from parliamentary bodies, so we would expect to see some more responses this month. And again, we've repeated the social media and sent out reminder emails to stakeholders to encourage a maximum number of responses. So 2 responses are one from SCLP, which is in packs for you to note at this stage if you're content, and another one from a member of the public. So again, that's me.
Yeah, thank you, Ashley. Are members content to note the progress to date? Mm-hmm. Agreed. And I can advise members that a summary of all responses to the committee's call for evidence will be provided at a future meeting. Next item of business, item number 8, correspondence. There's no correspondence. Item number 9, any other business. Has any member any other business? Right.
I was just going to suggest, Chair, in terms of what we discussed in closed session, or the broader thing on the inquiry, which is exactly the same name as the committee. Are we going to return to that? Are we going to have will we agree today when we're going to return to that, or do we?
So, Chair, the committee has agreed to go ahead and schedule oral evidence sessions with those stakeholders that have responded to the call for evidence and the previous committee's evidence. So they will start to be scheduled. So the next meeting is on the 7th of October. So we will go ahead and schedule some panel evidence sessions for then. And then the committee may want to decide at that point, if it continues to take evidence sessions on a Tuesday, or whether it wants to move to a Wednesday. But that decision can be made then, Chair.
Okay. And on the 7th, will the 7th of October be the opportunity for us to suggest other witnesses?
Yeah, Chair. So in addition to those who have made the written submissions, the invites will go out to them. There's that opportunity for the committee members to make additional suggestions as well. Yeah.
I just said, I'll put it on the radar list. I actually think it occurs to me now, because the NI Affairs Committee did this, which is taking evidence from previous First Minister, or previous First and Deputy First Ministers, and indeed previous Ministers. Just wanted to put that on the radar. I think that might be something that would be, I'll make the suggestion formally when it comes to the 7th of October.
Okay, item number 10, date, time and place of next meeting. That'll be on 7th of October, 9:30 in room 21. That's all the business. The meeting's adjourned. Thank you.
Yes.